Hi, welcome back to the video. In this video, we're going to talk about Claude, and we're going to talk about the difference between Chat, Cowork, and Claude Code, and which one you should use. By the end of the video, you will fully understand what the difference is, why they are completely different tools, and which one you should use in what use case. All right, so let me straight jump into it. Actually, before we get into this part, I want to show you a couple of things here. So these are not three tiers, they are entirely different tools, and we're gonna talk about why. So if you look at this comparison, let me zoom in a little more, like that. So they are, let's look at whether they run an agentic loop or they are a normal LLM, and in the next one, I'll right away show you what an agentic loop is, whether they are walled off from your computer or can access your files, and whether the workspace that you're using survives or not, and then how knowledge is shared. Okay, so when it comes to Chat, it doesn't run a loop. It's a normal LLM. You send in tokens and it gives you tokens back. It doesn't do anything else. Is it walled off from your environment? Yes, it doesn't have any machine. You send the request to an Anthropic server that runs the LLM itself, and then it just gives you, you send input tokens, it gives you output tokens, and that's it. It doesn't have an environment or a computer that it will use. It's just token in, token out. So workspace survives is not existent because there is no workspace. And then the knowledge is being shared with what's called projects on the team and enterprise plans. Now, when it comes to Cowork, we have a massive jump. Cowork is an agentic loop. It runs a loop. And it is still pulled off from your computer, because what Cowork does, instead of running it locally and having access to your computer, which Claude Code does, it has essentially, you quickly get a VPS. A VPS is just a virtual machine that is, again, an Anthropic server, but now you're not only using the LLM. So this is you use the LLM itself, which is on an Anthropic server, but then you also use a small computer, and it's not even that small, it's like a relatively powerful computer that you rent from Anthropic pretty much for free when using Cowork, and it does work on that computer essentially. But when you switch to a new window, that is completely lost, and that is what workspace survives mean. It is destroyed at the end of the session. The knowledge can be shared within an admin plane and organizational skills and plugins. And when it comes to Claude Code, it is again an agentic loop, and this was the original version before Cowork came out, and it is not walled off from your stuff. It is actually running on your real machine. So Claude Code can access your computer and it can do things. So very specific example, if I ask my Claude Code to access a folder that I give the path to, and move a couple of files around or move it from this folder to that folder, Claude Code will be able to do that, but Cowork will not be able to do it. And I will show you right away on a mirror board what that means. And the workspace survives, yes, it does. It is on your computer. You keep your computer. So while you're using Cowork, Anthropic takes that computer away from you when you switch sessions and gives it to someone else, but before that wipes it completely, then gives it to someone else. With Claude Code, you're using your own computer, so obviously it's not wiped off. You have it, you own it, and you keep it, so the workspace survives. But sharing knowledge is with Git conventions, so more technical stuff. But it still can be very easy. And so now let me show you what an agentic loop and the normal LLM is. So actually, it's easier to start what a normal LLM is and what happens when you talk to normal Claude or with ChatGPT, normal chat. So what happens is, here's you and here's the LLM, and you send it a string of input tokens, and that may be a simple question to the LLM about, hey, what kind of movie should I watch if I'm in the mood for romantic? And then the LLM will just kind of think and look at its own knowledge and memory on the training that it had, and just give you a couple of output tokens. So this is input, and then it is output, but that is it. Like, there is an in, and based on that input, it will just think statistically, what are the next kind of tokens that could come after this if I am a useful assistant and a helpful assistant, and that it will just give you the next most probable tokens and gives you that as an output. So that is what happens if you're using normal Claude or ChatGPT chat version. And here is what happens if you're using Cowork or Claude Code. So here's you send in a problem. So let's say your problem is that, hey, please schedule a meeting with a coworker of mine for Wednesday, 5 p.m. So what happens here, the LLM will think, what is the problem here? And it won't come back to you until that problem is solved. And it's going to be looping between the LLM reasoning and thinking where we are, where is the problem now? Are we solving it? What tool should I use? And so the LLM reasons, then it thinks of and prepares for a tool usage. Then it essentially uses a tool. So for example, connects to Google Calendar, which it can do for both Claude Code and Cowork. Cowork does it with plugins. Claude Code can do it easily via the API as well, or MCP on top of the API. And then it uses that code, schedules that meeting, and then that is done. And essentially the fact what happened goes back to the LLM, and now the LLM reasons again, did we solve the problem? Now with this relatively simple one, you just wanted to schedule a call, it will probably just use the tool, it comes back, it's done, and the LLM now says, okay, problem resolved, now I give my answer. So essentially this is what happens, but when you give it a more complex problem, it will just loop between the LLM reasoning and using different tools. So in a very complex problem, you may end up using Gmail, you may end up using the calendar, you may look up things on the internet, you may even go and create a new Excel file, things like that. So a bunch of different tool usage, and then the tool is being used, done, goes back to the LLM reasons what happens, and that is looping. So that only happens with Cowork and Code, not with Chat. Although I need to say that recent newer models of both ChatGPT and Claude are now able to use different tools. So they can, for example, look the internet up. Some interesting statistics here is that Cowork is not really a developer tool, and a lot of non-developers are using it, while Claude Code is more popular with developers, so software engineers. But I think an interesting take here is that the fact that you can use your own machine with code enables you to kind of do a lot more and to create better, essentially be able to do more, and it also persists. So you can have what's called like a second brain, where you have a bunch of markdown files and documents connected to each other, and that kind of personalizes your experience and makes your system just much more helpful. Versus Cowork, where it kind of loses all of that when you start a new session. So I think it would make sense for a lot of people to use Claude Code. That will be it for today's short video. If you want me to dive deeper into Claude and maybe the OpenAI models as well, and compare Chat, Cowork, and Code and the benefits and things like that, feel free to leave a comment and I'm happy to respond to anything. And if you liked it, I would appreciate if you left a like and subscribed. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video.